Hey, Mike, we're live.
Yeah, how you doing? Where?
Good. And guess what? I'm in a hotel room
Yeah.
it's rainy and windy here in San Diego at the Chime
Really?
conference. Yeah, it's awful. Just awful. Just kidding. It's like
No, it's not.
81 and beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely beautiful.
Uh-huh.
What's it like what's it like in Bremerton?
Way to rub it in. It's a good thing that I like dark and rain because that's exactly what we have.
Ah,
By the way, how's the tap water taste there?
yeah, it's funny. I don't know because all you drink here are mojitos.
Okay.
but
All right. That's a good answer.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Hey, before we get going, some things that folks should know besides the fact that I'm at a conference. And if you happen to be in San Diego at the Chime conference, let me know because, hey, I'm here at a conference. And it's super interesting and weird to be at a conference with no masks, but everyone's vaccinated. And so,
And it's
anyway,
a health sector
it's a
conference. Let's
it's a
be
health sector.
clear. It is a
Right.
health sector
That's
conference.
right. Conference of CIOs for healthcare organizations, and I just went to a fascinating panel discussion. And among the discussions there, one of the ones that came up, of course, was insurance. And very large health system talked about the fact that not that MFA, or nobody's even going to talk to you about renewal.
Right.
Anyway, so that whole different discussion.
You have a
Um,
master in fine arts, right?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't, but thanks for
I thought you
asking.
did.
No. All right. Just so everybody knows, security awareness training is tomorrow. It'll be super good because I won't be there because I'm at the conference. Aleth is hosting it, so it'll be better.
Yeah.
If you need a link to it, email me, jake@criticalinsight.com, and I'll kick it over to you. Send everyone, send your grandma, send your friends. It is really good, and it's never boring. We've been doing weekly presentations to get as many people as we can in, and we've done somewhere between 2 and 3,000 folks. It's pretty
Wow.
amazing. And because I'm just on my laptop, I can't put a link in the chat, but just email me, jake@criticalinsight.com, and I'll send you a link. And yeah, Mike, it's not boring, right?
Well, I'm getting a little bored with it, and that's really too bad that links don't work on your laptop. Maybe we should talk to our IT people about that. So, eventually, probably at the end of the year, we're going to rework that deck and the messaging for next year. And as always, if anybody wants to contribute, a good example of bait, right? Messages and email right on their phone, social media, stuff that's clearly, hey, this is trying to trick me. Send them over. We'll use them. There's a lot of that in the deck now. But like I say, we got to freshen it up. Awareness training is more effective with real examples that have happened to real people and real organizations, I have found.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's definitely true. There was somebody who sent us what was that one they sent us that was so good, and you worked it in. Um,
The health sector one,
The health
where,
sector one. Yeah, tell
yeah,
people about that one.
right
What
now.
what yeah, tell them right now.
Oh, well, they got a message that had a whole bunch of apparently not attached, but documents that they could go read. And one of them was called a capital call. And the only reason they didn't get fooled is because they know that they don't do capital calls. The part that they didn't know was that it came from some random address at a cable modem in Knoxville, Tennessee. They missed that
Mhm.
part. But hey, we don't do capital calls. This must be fake.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So time to get to the news. Big week for government actions against nations,
Hmm.
finally, both because of their support for criminals, but also because we don't want them to have the hacking tools. So,
Yeah.
what's all the nation state going on? Your favorite topic?
Yeah, it's my favorite topic, and they just sucked all the air out of the news this week. So you remember that? I think we talked about this last week or the week before. We melted the R evil infrastructure, right? And that was probably the Department of Justice. Could have been somebody in cybercom military involved, and apparently this was a multiple country operation. Okay, and including compromising their backups, which is some of the best irony there is out there, because that's their tactic. Okay, there must have been just glee in the FBI. So there seems to be some blowback from that, unsurprisingly. last week there was a message posted to Pastebin, which is a service that lets you anonymously post text, saying that the U.S. going after criminals and disrupting their infrastructure is so unfair. And who are we, the U.S., to complain because our cops kill people of color and we start wars, et cetera, et cetera. And it looked to me like pretty straight up propaganda. And, I theorized that there was a press secretary involved in the editing, right? Maybe a press secretary that works with the government. I don't know.
Is this one of those times where you're saying Russia, but not saying Russia? We all know the answer to that, Mike.
Mm-hmm. So in all seriousness, right, there's a suggestion that they're going to come directly after the public sector in the U.S. in retaliation. What they mean is the federal government. But I'm not sure Russian criminals can pass an 8th grade civics test in the U.S., and they don't differentiate between federal, state, and local government. So, and before you beat me to it, yeah, probably 40% of Americans can't pass that same test.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to beat you to that. I mean, so your point is that local governments, which are known to be much thinner on security controls, are going to end up as the targets here, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been targeted all this time, but that's the upshot of that communication. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you could also think that the local governments are a vector to get into the federal government, even if you could pass an 8th grade civics test. By the way, I think it's 5th grade civics where you learn that.
Maybe.
So, I mean, I'm not sure things could get worse for counties and cities. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Could be posturing, of course, because they're criminals and motivated by money and not so much revenge. But these waters seem to be a little uncharted because we've never struck back and we've never had this threat back. I mean, that's new, right?
Right.
And then China also, what's this business about China telecoms being kicked out of the U.S.? It seems like now, we've always been, battling on two fronts, but now all of a sudden, this Russia thing, China thing, what's going on?
This happened Tuesday. The FCC revoked the license for China Telecom to operate in the U.S. And the reason given is national security concerns, which is not hard to understand given that the Chinese have this fascination with surveillance and intellectual property theft and gaining information on every U.S. citizen to use in some way we don't know yet. Yeah, kick them out until they behave. I'll add to that too, and this is reporting from Brian Krebs, right? KrebsOnSecurity.com. It's a great site. It's about a company called PAX Technology. They were raided this week by the FBI. Their product is point of sale systems, and they're used by millions of businesses. The suspicion is that these systems may be implicated in attacks on US and EU systems. And it's a really interesting story, and it's worth going over to Krebs on Security to read. A major US payment provider put a sniffer on one of their systems, I'm assuming that, and saw packet traffic that they couldn't explain. That processor found that the terminals were being used as malware droppers and as command and control.
Wow. I mean, that gets a real wow.
Yeah.
What's going to happen if we prove that this is true?
More jets will fly into Taiwan airspace, probably accompanied by Russian aircraft. I don't know. China and Russia playing footsies right now is not a good sign that the world is headed for greater stability.
No, it's not. But at least Facebook rebranded.
That's so meta. Gives me another opportunity to not use their products. So it's good in that way.
Hey, I want you to know, by the way, that while it's like 48 degrees or whatever it is in Bremerton, that while I'm sitting here, the air conditioning came on because I need air conditioning. It's very warm here.
Okay.
All right.
Enjoy that.
All right, Mike, anything else?
Well, yeah. Did you read about Iranian gas stations getting disrupted? So,
No.
and more correctly, if you really dive into the story, it's the payment cards that are distributed by the Iranian government for subsidized fuel were disrupted. And that suggests it was the government that was hit and not the gas stations, despite all the cyber reporting on this. It's got to be the government. And There are ongoing DDoS attacks, specifically against voice over internet VoIP providers. And we talked about this last week or the week before. Now this has moved to UK companies. So phone systems are getting snarled all over the place. And that includes hospital call centers. Okay. North Korea, right? The Lazarus Group and the Nobelium APT Group, that was the one that was responsible for SolarWinds. They are intentionally going after technology service providers and resellers, meaning that the real body count is going to start piling up later after all their customers get hit. That's really a bad sign. If there's reports of these two well-known groups that are intentionally going after service providers, this trend of getting in through the third party has really become institutionalized.
Ooh, oof, oof. Any
Yeah.
good news, Mike?
Well, apart from China Telecom getting kicked out of the U.S. and their point of sale company getting raided. You know what GCHQ is, right? That's the equivalent of the NSA in the UK. They are vocally joining the effort with the US and others to go hunting for ransomware gangs. And now they are identified, or at least they've identified one individual and are tracking this person. So remember what I said would eventually make this ransomware thing stop?
You said hangings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you said hangings, and I think that's a bit hyperbolic.
Maybe a little.
Although hyperbolic and Hamilton start with the same letter, and that's not a coincidence. It does look
Fair
like
enough.
that's where. It does look like that's where we're headed, right? There's got to be some examples made out of criminals that get caught, so others see what's going on. I don't know. With the amount of money being made, I'm not sure that's going to even change the behavior at this point, will it?
I'm not either, but again, a couple of examples, and we will see. I keep saying if the price is if the risk is so high for you to be pummeling the United States, you will move to a softer target. So we'll just see how that goes. And then there is our government. So I think these are pretty good announcements too. Department of Justice is going to start holding, unless you are one of the companies affected, the Department of Justice is going to start holding federal contractors responsible for lax security, meaning that if you made a representation to the government that your security house is in order and something happens, especially something that might have an impact on a federal agency, you're going to be in pretty big trouble, like maybe even existential trouble.
That's not good. I suppose, as the head of marketing, I should say, if you are one of those companies and you need security help, let us know.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, there you go. There's my marketing moment. I read too, by the way, that the Department of Commerce announced a prohibition on selling hacking tools to foreign governments. Hopefully that means Russia and China. Why were we doing that? And was that actually a problem?
Well, it's a problem because we're capitalists and we don't care what line we cross to make shareholders happy. Yeah, so that's a problem, right? We're selling these sophisticated tools to anybody that'll buy them. Yeah, that's a problem. But it's a bigger problem because if we sell these tools to companies that are affiliated with China, they end up in the hands of the North Koreans, which use them to rob our banks. Yeah, that is a problem. So this is a good decision.
Yeah. Well, this is not making me feel good about the world. All right. Any threats and vulnerabilities people need to know about before we split?
Some interesting ones. So Discourse, the open source discussion platform, has a remote RCE, remote code execution vulnerability. The patch is out. Got to get it patched. The NPM library that's used for, and this is used by just everybody uses this. What it does is when you visit a site, it parses your connection to get your browser version, your OS, your CPU, stuff like that. That's been hijacked to install crypto miners. So that ain't going to be good. So we'll identify you as Mozilla running on Linux, and then here, go to work, try and solve this algorithm. A Cisco SD-WAN security bug is allowing remote code execution too. Got to patch that. Microsoft has warned something about the Today Zoo phishing kit, which is cobbled together from other kits and didn't look that serious of a thing, but it's really aggressively being used in stealing credentials right now. And and I read this one is not good. Business email compromise as a service is coming.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you're not making anybody feel good, so I will tell you about the T-shirt that I saw that I think we should all get, and it says, "I like my coffee and my passwords the same. Strong." Oh, pretty good T-shirt.
No, it isn't. No.
I mean, here in the land of bad coffee, I need to come back to good coffee. Although the air conditioning is rather nice here.
Well, if you live in a place that requires air conditioning and you get used to that kind of, air conditioned air,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately that's not that good for you. I actually do prefer the outside and a little bit of moisture in the air.
You're weird.
And a little blood dark is good. I like dark.
All right. Well,
Mhm.
if anybody knows what the if anybody knows if there's good coffee in San Diego, you let me know. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.